Hello everyone, back again with another build video for the latest update of ESO. I've got a open world build here for you today and a dual build for you also. Not many people will actually use this in a duel nowadays, simply because no Magicka is using 2 shields, or 3 shields for that matter. They're all using the meta, which is primarily Wretched and Alfiq. And I won't be covering those type of builds because there's many builds out there that cover those type of Magicka, so there's no point in me releasing a build similar to that when there's other fantastic content creators like Malcolm who create builds for players who want to use that specific type of Magicka, which is completely fine. But here's my version of a Magicka anyway, so let's get back into it. So straight into it, I'm going to choose the stats. This is the unbuffed stats. As we can see, we've got 48k max mag, 22k health, 14k stamina, 2.1k mag recovery. The weapon and spell damage is quite low, but we have a lot of max Magicka for this open world build, so we still have decent damage. And we have major breach on this build, so we have a high amount of penetration as well. And these resistances are completely unbuffed. You'll understand what I mean when I show you the set that you will be using. 64 points in the Magicka, and the Mage Mundus with Ghastly Eyeball, and I am a Breton. Now let's get into the build itself. So I favour max Magicka, the true OG way of playing Magicka. Ancient Grace is too good, stat dense for a 3-piece set. Always use it if you want to go high max mag on a Magicka. So Sharpened is the most bang for your buck when it comes to this in terms of damage output. Nernhorn is I think it gives you diminishing returns personally. You just can't go wrong with the raw damage output of Sharpened, so always use Sharpened. Restoration Staff of Ancient Grace, defending, far too good on a Magicka Sorcerer not to use defending. Some people say use Powered, but personally I think Powered only really benefits classes which have very high healing and don't rely on shields, so I stick to defending. Tudun, the staple of any Magicka build this day and age in my opinion. It is the best monster set for a Magicka, as I've stated in previous build videos. Absolutely brilliant set, quite easy to get as well. Make sure that you get this set if you want to play a Magicka. The next set, Cuirass of Trials. Now, this is what I mean, unbuffed resistances. When you saw the stat sheet, this set is such an overlooked set, and when I have told people about it and they've used it, they have been in awe at how powerful it is. By no means is it overpowered, but no means is it underpowered. I think this is exactly where it should be, simply because of how powerful status effects are now, especially when you are outnumbered. This set mitigates so much of that status effect damage, it is ridiculous. And rightly so, because status effects when they stack hits for so hard, and this set gives you 10k armor in total when you are under the effect of an elemental status effect. And when you are outnumbered, you basically have a 100% uptime on this set. It's such a massively overlooked set. It's better than Pariah, it's better than Swift, it's better than Impreg, arguably better than Rally Cry. The only difference with Rally Cry is that you get damage, right? If you want a pure tank set, Trial by Fire, in my genuine opinion, is the best PvP tank set to date. It is phenomenal, right? When I'm sure there'll be people watching this video wondering how the hell I'm so tanky in PvP, this is the reason, right? Well, it's not the only reason. I'm very good at keeping my shields up and keeping distance, etc. But this is a big factor as to why I'm tanky. Yes, I'm tanky with other sets, but this is the tankiest set. Trial by Fire is a crafted set, and it takes 3 traits, I believe, to craft. Very easily craftable. It is such a good set. And the only downside of this set is if you come across gankers. Majority of the time, gankers will not proc an elemental status effect on you before the armor can kick in. That is the only downside to this set. Now, gankers are very prevalent in PvP now, so I completely understand if you did not want to use this set because of that reason. But if you keep your shields up, you will be completely fine when a ganker is on you. Also take into consideration that if you are outnumbered and there's a ganker, you are most likely going to have the armor buff on you, so the ganker's not going to hit you as hard. If there's just a ganker by himself, he's probably going to hit you hard because you're not going to get your armor buff. Just take that in mind. So Cuirass of the Trials, reinforced, most bang for your buck. Heavy Tudin on the shoulder. Again, Tudin way too good to give up. I am running too heavy on this build because since we are in 5 light armor, physical damage hits you really hard, so you want to mitigate as much as that as possible, which heavy armor does. Again, just trials on the rest of the body, all impen, which will again help with gankers. The reason that I do not run well fitted is because light armor reduces the cost of roll dodge and break free, thus you do not need well fitted. Necklace of the Trainee, again, it is optional if you want protective. In open world, I like to just be that little bit more tankier, so I put 1 protective piece on. You can, if you feel as if your damage is lacking a little bit, put on Bloodthirsty or even go Max Magicka here. You know, it's a flex spot. You can even go Swift. Whatever you feel like using, you can. This is just a flex spot. However, in the next ones, I would highly recommend keeping it minimum 2 arcane on this build, so that you've got bigger shields and that you have enough damage to kill players in PvP. 2 minimum arcane on the jewellery. Death Dealer's Feet, the staple of any Adam Lad builds. Far too good to give up on a like max mag soak. It's far too good to give up. I wouldn't change this at all. And that is their build. Now, let's get into the champion points. Champion points here. These you can mess about with, because the build itself is very strong. So you can actually mess about with the CP nodes here, depending on what you feel like you're lacking or what you want most. These are just my preferred ones. This does not mean that you have to copy to a T what I'm using. This is just my preferred. Mess about with the CP to see what best suits you. My play style is vastly different from the rest of the player base. This is just a guide, right? All builds on YouTube are a guide. You need to cater the build to how you play. And a lot of people forget that. They don't realise that even. So cater this to your own play style. Now, Arcane Supremacy, far too good to give up in my opinion if you're going full max mag. Master at Arms, more damage. Deadly Aim, more damage. Ironclad, direct damage attacks. I think Ironclad is the most bang for your buck when it comes to defensive CP. In my opinion. This is also very good. Resilience is also really good. But since you have so much actual resistance, well, I just don't feel as if you need this on. I would rather have the damage reduction all the time rather than just when you get critically struck. So that's the reason for that. Also, make sure that you have every single passive that you can possibly get, because a lot of people forget to do that. Now into the red CP. Again, I'm going to reiterate, this is just a guide. These are my favourable ones. It does not mean that you have to use it. If you're struggling with sustain, chuck on Shield Master in replace of Fortified. Like for example, this is just a guide. Use what you're most comfortable with, because the build itself is very strong. You can mess about with the CP. But these are my favoured ones. Fortified for the extra tankiness, you can't go wrong. Bastion, you always have to have this on any Magsock build at all. And then I use Relentlessness. Relentlessness is a flex spot. However, I will say Relentlessness is very good against gankers, and if you're using Trial by Fire, if it doesn't proc the status effect, this is very good in mitigating a lot of the ganker damage, so I'd choose to keep this on, but you don't have to. And Paint Refuge, way too good to give up. Never take this off on any build across any ESO. If that's a Templar, Magsock, Necro, Arcanist, always use Paint Refuge. Do not take it off. No matter what anyone says, no matter how good you think the player is, take it from me. Never take this CP off. It's far too good in PvP. Now, make sure that you have all the passives again. So that is my open world build for PvP. I will say that if you are low CP, which I am currently on NA, which you will have seen in my previous video when I've been 2vxing with King of Games and Greygar, I tend to have all these on protective, because at low CP you're just so squishy. Also, the higher ping is rough sometimes, so I like to be a little bit tankier with higher ping so that you can compensate for the lack of smoothness. But yeah, that's my open world build. Now I'm going to show you my dual build. Also, sorry, I will show you the bar setup next. So Bound Aegis for my open world build. You know, the staple of any my high max mag Sorc build. Far too good to give up. Crystal Frags, self-explanatory. Hardened Ward does need a nerf. It should be a heal over time and not a burst heal. If you're listening, Zenimax, get that done. Shocking Soul. Now, I used to run Crushing Shock. Crushing Shock is still a very, very, very good skill. I would only now use Crushing Shock if you are in a group or 2vxing. Simply because most likely there's going to be another form of major breach on the targets that you are hitting. And Crushing Shock will proc more status effects and it will interrupt enemies when they are trying to res opponents. That is the only time I would use Crushing Shock. When you are solo, this is the best spammable in the game for a Magsock on any build, in my opinion. Now you can mess about with the affix and the scripts on this. This is just my preferred one for my playstyle. Mess about to your heart's content. Endless Fury, I think with the buff to Magsock, I think Endless Fury is now, it's a very good execute, because now since you have so much Max Magicka now, it hits a lot harder and you can get people down to 20% health easier, and it just blows them up basically. Ice Comet. Reason for Ice Comet is simply because it gives you Max Magicka because of the Mage's Guild passive, and the Mage's Guild passive also increases your mag recovery. You can put Dawnbreaker here if you so desired. Horton Curse, again, self-explanatory for basically any Magsock build. Make sure you time this with your frags. Harness Magicka, now very, very good with the buff to Magsock, as the 10% increase in Max Mag has now buffed this. You can go Dampen Magicka for an even bigger ward, however, your sustain will massively suffer and it will be incredibly difficult. I would not recommend doing that. Degeneration, to give you your weapon and spell damage increase through brutality and sorcery. It also gives a dot and it's quite cheap. It also increases your Max Magicka and mag recovery due to the Mage's Guild passives. Streak, far too good to give up, self-explanatory. I will say, I do think Streak, in my opinion, with how strong Magsock is, or any type of Sorcerer build, whether it be Hybrid, Stam, Mag, I do think that once you cast Streak, I think your movement speed should be only, how do I word this? It should only be as quick as when you get the major buffs for speed. You should not be able to be any quicker than that. I don't think that if you have Major Expedition, I think that's what it's called. I think that once you use Streak for 5 seconds, you should not be able to go any quicker than your base value plus Major Expedition, which is an extra 30% speed. I think it should be reduced. I don't think you should be able to have an incredible amount of movement speed plus Streak. I think it's too strong. So that's just my opinion. Healing Ward, again, I like Healing Ward because I like to play in a 2vx situation, and this helps a lot in a 2vx situation, keeping my friends safe in execute range. And Life Giver, Resto Ult. Again, the reason that I like to use this is because when I'm very low, I can just pop to the back bar, cast this, and I'm going to be safe. It's the same for when I'm in a 2vx or a 3vx situation. I can be anywhere near my teammates. I can be focusing a target, and I can look in the top left hand corner. If someone's low, I can pop in my back bar, press a Resto Ult, and it will do the rest. It will heal them. It's far too good to give up, in my opinion. Now, let's get to the duel build. So, the duel build will be this. That should be in pen, but I don't have it on us. So, this is the duel build, pretty much. You just basically replace trials for Crafty Elfique, and this is where it gets interesting. You replace Bound Aegis for Inner Light, and then you replace Healing Ward for Bound Aegis. Now, people might not know what that's just done, but if you look, it says increase your max Magicka by 5%, and it gives you critical rating, major savagery and prophecy. That is a lot of damage, right? But that's not the main reason. The critical rating. It's the max Magicka that I'm interested in. So you get 5% from Inner Light, and you get an extra 2% because it's a mage's skill for the passive. Now, Bound Aegis works on both bars, okay? So you've now increased your max Magicka by 7% on the front bar, right? And you've increased your max Magicka by 8% on the back bar, right? That is a lot of Magicka. Unbuffed, I am sitting at, without a medium piece on for the 511, I am sitting at 60k max Magicka, right? That's without Death Dealers procced, okay? This hits so incredibly hard in a duel whilst you have huge shields, right? I tested this at low CP, right, against good players, good duelists, and they came out and said that I was the tankiest player that they've ever fought, and I was only, I think, what CP was I? I think I was 300 CP or something. And they were like, how are you so tanky? Granted, I can keep my shields up, but at low CP, when I have absolutely no defense whatsoever, right, just because of the shield size, I'm incredibly tanky. Not just this, without any damage CP at all, I was hitting 11k frags on this, right? It is really hard hitting, okay? Yes, there is other duel builds out there with Crafty Elfique and Wretched, which are very good also, but it's just, you know, I like to bring something different to the table. I like some spice and variety. So that is my duel build. The bar setup basically stops the same bar Inner Light and Bound Aegis. However, you can swap Ice Comet for Dawnbreaker, as it's less predictable Dawnbreaker, but you will lose very slightly. You'll lower your max Magicka by a little bit, but not lots. I just think if you can time your streak with Ice Comet, it's just a good enough job. But Dawnbreaker is also very, very good. For the champion points, it's basically exactly the same, because you just get the most bang for your buck, really, when it comes to a duel with these CP. But again, in my opinion, dueling has now lost most of its credibility. It's not what it used to be, in my opinion. Before, it was very skill-based. It has skill to some degree, but if someone has a massively superior build to you, they're most likely going to win, regardless of skill. It's not just that. There's a lot of counter builds. Well, it's just in the name. If you have a build that counters another one, then, you know, like, you're in a much advantageous position. It was never really like that back in the day. It was more just how strong classes were and not the sets. But since there's so many mechanics in the game now and proc sets, it's just basically duels now are just basically for fun, unless you have mirror matches. But even mirror matches, in my opinion, for example, are you gonna have the same bar setup? Because I mean, someone might be used to a different bar setup, then it wouldn't technically be a mirror match. But that I suppose that's how close you can get nowadays in ESO to being fair and square in duels nowadays. But I only do them for fun or if someone has major beef, but I don't want any beef with anybody. There's no point. The game's 10 years old. I want absolutely no clout with anybody whatsoever. I mean, if you send me hate whispers, I'm just going to ignore them. Or I can just, if I'm live streaming, you'll look foolish. Or if I'm 1vxing and you send a whisper, you're also going to look foolish as well. So, you know, there's no point in sending hate whispers. But yeah, that is basically the build video, and I will show you some gameplay with the build. I hope you have enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next one.
The very minds of the people we were trying to save. You have to understand, most of these people are not ready to be unplugged. And many of them are so inert, so hopelessly dependent on the system, that they will fight to protect it. Are you listening to me, Neo?